Clone Wars Season 7, Episode 8, Together Again. It's always funny coming to this show now because with the weird quarantine situation that we have, nothing else is on. So this is literally the only show that I'm currently keeping up on. So it's funny to be like, oh, I have a show to review. I have something to actually even watch. It's like the only thing that I can think of. It's certainly the only thing that I watch that's even new right now because of all the crazy coronavirus stuff going on. So it's either I end up reviewing this or I do a quarantine vlog. That's like all I've been uploading to the channel. But this was a good episode. I definitely enjoyed it. I would have to assume, based on the way the episode ended, it's gonna be the end of the Trace Rafa and Ahsoka arc, and it's gonna go into the only thing I give a crap about for this whole effing season, which is the Mandalorian stuff. So I'm incredibly excited for that. So I like the idea. As they go through, Ahsoka's like, all right, I just need you two to trust me. She comes up with a plan. Excuse me. So of course she's like, all right. They dump the spice somewhere. I don't know where it is, but give them one cycle to figure it out. And if they don't return, then I will tell you where their family lives. Obviously, the sisters have no family. Their family was killed and all that stuff. So that was her plan to help them escape. They, of course, end up going back. Ahsoka pulls off some pretty cool maneuvers. She basically ends up escaping, and she's sneaking around, putting like sticky thermal detonators all over the place. We find out that the Pikes are actually working with Darth Maul, which is always awesome. And I knew that's what the case was before they actually showed him. As soon as the leader was like, because the guy was like, this is a deception. He was like, I know, but their life, my life depends on it as much as theirs. And I was like, he's working for Darth Maul. As soon as they were like, do you think you think he knows? And it's like, he always knows. I'm like, that's Darth Maul. And then of course they made it really obvious because it was like, here's a hologram. It's Darth Maul. Also brought up a great question. How much can Darth Maul see? Because they made it where he looked down and he saw Ahsoka, and I was like, okay. So, because they always do that. I honestly, I've always wondered this. I think they do it in the movies and in the shows. It's the same thing, and I'm always like, because sometimes they'll look up, and sometimes they'll look down, sometimes they'll look over and be like, hey, what are you doing? They'll talk to two people at once. So I'm like, it shows one person when they come into a specific field of vision. Because if you think of Episode 1, Palpatine was talking to the people on the thing. I totally forgot the names of all that stuff from Episode 1, but Palpatine's talking to them, and then he's like, he introduces Darth Maul, and Darth Maul walks into frame, and then he like comes into the hologram, and it's like, okay, he was out of whatever distance, and then he walked into it. This makes it seem as though Darth Maul was looking at them, and then he was like standing inside of a digital room, like he was on the freaking holodeck from Star Trek or something, because he looked over and he saw Ahsoka, like, was that Ahsoka? And then he like looks over the railing, and I'm like, how do these holograms work? I've always wondered, what is the actual specifics for what everyone can see when they use those holograms? Because I'm like, the person, look, like if one person's holding it and it's the mini hologram, does the person on the mini hologram see that person's whole body, or do they only see the top half of that person? Because I think sometimes we've seen that, like when they do the Jedi Council stuff, like in older seasons of Clone Wars, and they're around like the round table stuff, sometimes I think the full body shows up, and then other times I think it is just like, it's almost like a bust, it's just the top half of the person. So it always confuses me, and that was just another moment. So I wanted to talk about that, because every time it happens and they do something random, it's just like that. Every time something little thing happens, I'm like, what can they see? Like, how much of this room are they getting? Because she was way off. She was like 20 feet away from them, or even if it was 10 feet. She was like 10 feet away hiding, and like, holy crap, it's Darth Maul. And he like saw her out of the corner of his digital eye and was like, huh. And she had to hide from a digital construct of Darth Maul who looked over a railing and then went back to talking to the people. So I'm like, what are the specifics of these holograms? I've always wondered that. So just wanted to have that little rant because it always blows my mind. Every time a little thing like that happens, I always think, what's happening on the other side of this? Because you only ever see the one side, and so that always makes me wonder, like, if they're reacting like this, what does it look like for them? Are they on like a giant TV? Are they in a giant room where everything around them is digital, like they could turn around and stuff? Because Darth Maul was facing away, so was he looking at the other people when he said that, and then he turned around to talk to the guy? Million questions all the time. But aside from that random little thing, like I said, I enjoyed the episode. Ahsoka, throws all the sticky bombs out. She escaped, got captured, and then technically was the only reason they escaped, the second time because of all the thermal detonators. Super cool move where the dude, like the one person that had a gun, he was about to shoot at Trace, and she jumps in front of it, and he hits the handcuffs. And I was like, well, that's super cool. and then they get out of there. She pushes them down, and they take off. And I was like, this is pretty sweet. We also had a pretty cool moment where Trace and Rafa actually go to steal some spice, which was an interesting scene because they were just the bad guys. Period. Like it wasn't like, oh, they did this and it was kind of in between. They just stole the spice, and Rafa straight up murdered that one guy. Like he was gonna beat her up and kill her probably, but they were totally in the wrong. And it was just funny watching it, and like they're going through this crazy situation. And they're on this lift and everything. She's trying to beat the dude up, and he's like insanely powerful. But and she can fight. She did it didn't do anything because he was like super tough. But when she was like kicking him in the leg, she like kicked him like up his body. I'm like, that's not an easy thing to do. Like it's not easy to just throw out 3 kicks, like it's a video game. That actually takes work. Like she was doing some pretty good maneuvers. He was just like physically dominating and a more powerful species than her. But I was like, she can really fight. I thought that was actually kind of cool. And then ultimately, she hops over his head and gets on top of the 2 links and kicks it down, and he just falls off into the darkness. And I was like, she just murdered that guy. It wasn't like, oh, he's kind of the bad guy and this and that. They were the bad guys, and she killed that dude. And I was like, huh. This is interesting. But I was like, hey, things happen in the galaxy. It's a big place. So I just thought that was interesting because I'm like, they're not the good guys here. They're going to save Ahsoka, but everything they did, was kind of wrong. So it was just funny. I was like, yeah, they murdered that guy. I'm not really on their side. So it's interesting, but definitely a good episode, a decent action episode again. So, they go through the whole explosions and everything. They take off. They make it back home. We have a pretty decent moment. Ahsoka, of course, being found out that she's a Jedi. Wasn't too crazy. They were upset with her. And then it was like, you saved our butts. Because once again, even though she escaped and then got captured, she's still the only reason they escaped because, well, they probably would have let her go, I guess, technically, if they never found out that she was a Jedi. But, yeah, it's just interesting. They probably wouldn't have, even if that were the case. But it's just interesting. I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. They have a quick little moment where they're flying through before they leave the planet where they have to, take out the other ships. So that was pretty cool. Trace put off an interesting maneuver of chicken in space. I thought she was just going to ram the dude because she was like, we have the front shields. I'm like, okay, so I think her plan was to ram the guy, right? Like, I don't think she was playing chicken. I think she was like, we have the front shields. We'll just ram them and, knock them off course. And then we just fly up to space. But the dude spun out and then died. He's flipped out and like the thing just spiraled. I was like, he technically just moved out of the way. He would have been fine, but he freaked out. Thing spun, dead. That's how it's got to be. Everybody's got to die, so they escape. Go back to Coruscant. Of course, they're followed by the Mandalorians. It was who I thought it was. I still can't remember her name, but I think it's Satine's younger sister, if I'm not mistaken. That's all I can ever remember, which technically makes her Satine as well, because I think Satine was their last name. I just can't remember her first name, but as soon as she shows up, Ahsoka's like, stand back. She's like, okay, so you do remember me. Everything's cool. Night Watch is gone or Death Watch is gone, but we have a common enemy. And it's like, all right. And so, she ends up making her choice. She goes with them. She leaves her motorcycle. So odds are we will see Trace and Rafa again, especially going into like, the episode 3 stuff. I feel like it's automatic. Like Ahsoka's going to go back and she's going to at least try to help them. Those are like the 2 people that she knows outside of, all the Jedi people. So she'll probably go back as we get closer to like the episode 3 stuff. And it's like, all right, I need to get you 2 off of Coruscant because things are like buck wild. I don't know if that even matters when it comes to like the lower levels. Obviously the Jedi Temple and things got a little crazy there. So I don't really know what impact was even felt on lower levels. So maybe we'll get a taste of that, which I think would be pretty interesting. But all in all, very good episode. Of course, I'm super excited for the next one because we're getting into the Mandalorian stuff, and that's all that matters to me. I'm curious how many episodes is going to be before she is, officially with the Jedi again, because of course that was like the first thing was like she was worried it would lead back to the path of the Jedi, and we know that to be the case if you saw the trailer at least. So sorry if that was a spoiler, but eventually she does end up teaming up with Anakin and Obi-Wan again and stuff like that. So I am curious how many episodes we're going to get and what exactly is going to happen. We still don't have her with her lightsaber and stuff like that. I know she makes the 2 new lightsabers, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And I'm also curious if we're going to see her change her lightsabers, like within the series. We'll see her get her 2 white lightsabers. I think that would be pretty cool. But the story behind a white lightsaber is that in order to get a white lightsaber, you have to bleed. I think you have to bleed a red one. Like in order to turn a regular crystal into a red crystal, you have to do something. And then Maybe that's what it is. I can't remember. One of those you have to bleed. I feel like you have to bleed the red, like you take the red out of it and it makes it a pure white crystal. So I think that's what happened. So I think she would get 2 red crystals and then bleed those. And then I forgot what you have to do to turn a regular crystal into a red crystal. You like basically have to torture it. It's like that sort of thing. So it'll be interesting if we do actually see her get, her 2 new blue lightsabers and we see her get the 2 white lightsabers later. Because I don't think you're supposed to be able to bleed light side, crystals. So it'll be interesting just to see how all that stuff ends up playing out. But of course, I'm excited. All I care about is the Mandalorian stuff. I didn't mention this before, but we're gonna have Ahsoka in Mandalorian season 2. I'm sure you guys have heard that news because it's old news now. It's like weeks old. I'm excited for it. I know a lot of people were like losing their minds. I didn't bother looking into it. I didn't care. I like it. I think Rosario Dawson kind of looks like Ahsoka. I think it works perfectly. And she's apparently wanted to play it for a long time. And I think she's a good actress. So I think, especially if it's a character she wants to play, I'm sure it'll be fine. And she's in it. And they say there's some lightsaber stuff going on. So she might already be, it could be Ahsoka doing the lightsaber action if she's the one in there. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm very excited for that. But of course, we're getting our Mandalorian stuff from this final season. So I'm excited to see how that's going to play out when they get to Mandalore, when they talk to, the Jedi and stuff. Like, when do they decide we need to team up? Why is she the one that goes there, instead of Anakin and Obi-Wan? Stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see how all of that ends up playing out ultimately. But of course, I'm looking forward to it. Naturally, would love to know what you guys thought about this episode. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. Let me know your favorite parts about it, your least favorite parts about it. And of course, with us going into what I'm looking forward to the most, which is all the Mandalorian stuff, I would love to know what you guys want to see, coming up next, what you expect to see coming up next. I think it'll probably be, unfortunately, I think it'll probably be like another 8 episodes, maybe even 10, before we get that epic moment where it's Ahsoka, running into like Maul and stuff like that. So I hope I'm wrong. I hope it's, faster paced, because I haven't checked to see how many episodes we are actually getting this season. But we're still early on, so it easily could still be like, 10 episodes and then we get that. And if they're doing, maybe 23 or 25 episodes, it would kind of make sense that that big battle would be within like the last little chunk. It would totally make sense. It would be unfortunate to wait that long, but I'm sure there's going to be a lot of cool stuff in between. So I'm not that worried about it. But any fight with anything involving Darth Maul is like Darth Maul and Mandalorians is all on like the same level for me. Like, I love Darth Maul. Like, they did some amazing stuff with him with his Clone Wars, and I wish we had more of the character, but that dude has one heck of a journey as far as like a single Star Wars character that was underutilized in the live action, and everybody's like, oh dude, he was awesome, double-sided lightsaber, coolest thing in the universe. And then they brought him back for Clone Wars, and I was like, wow, that's a reboot for a character. Like, I don't think anyone has ever gotten any sort of justice in that way but Darth Maul. Like, I know technically, I guess Boba Fett did, both before and after he died with all the comic book stuff. But Darth Maul was like, he was just a dude in one movie, and he said like 3 lines, and then he was killed. And then it was like Clone Wars, and then he became like one of the sweetest characters in all of Star Wars, and I love it. So I'm looking forward to all that stuff. But like I said, I want to know what you guys are looking forward to, what you just naturally expect to see. And of course, like I said, I want to know what you guys thought about this episode in general. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.